Be a good topic to cover. Are African countries with black skin cursed? I'd say we are cursed because we don't have the technology in our hands to reverse the challenges that we're facing. If you look at if you look at the fact that, we're say if you live in a rural village like this, right? There's not going to be much tourism around, right? Where people can feel like, okay, I can get with this woman, I can get with this man, and I can exploit them, right? And we can kind of take over the village by mixing in and creating mulatto children, right? You only see that happen in the cities. Like, take for instance in Nairobi, Kenya. You see mixing there. You see mixing in Addis Ababa. You see mixing in all these other places, right? Where the mulatto children, they're raised and they're put into government and they start to change how policies are made and stuff like that. They start to write policy. Um, and that happens. Um, so like yeah, I would say we are cursed. Um, and I don't know how to really think about like, how can we change that? I don't really know how we can change it. I don't know. Because when you think about it, right, and you say, how do we get in this position? It was because we were hating on each other. We weren't helping each other. We weren't helping each other. We really weren't. You look at America today, right? And you look at all the dark skinned people, right? Who live below the 50th coordinates. Like they're all displaced. They're all displaced. And they all suffer from others people's xenophobic behavior. They all suffer. They all suffer. Like, if you look at places like, Chicago, you look at places like Detroit, you look at places like Houston, you look at places like Harlem, places where traditionally there were just like black people everywhere, right? All these cities have become holdings for others people interests. Like you see Asians now in these places. You see all these different people in these places now. And they've sort of become the replacement of black people. They're bringing in the skin bleaching. They're bringing in. They're bringing just about everything in, right? That's contrary to the culture that was originally there. Soap, like everybody has to use soap now, and they advertise to you on the commercials. Do you want to whitening? Do you want to whiten your teeth? Like so. Like the last place that we do have where we can just kind of like ride home about and say like, okay, they didn't get this part. It's just some parts of Tanzania, some parts of Uganda, um, you know, some parts of Burundi, and a lot of different other parts, right? But for the most part, all our countries have been overtaken due to mixing. The women are going to mix. We don't have power over the women. The women are going to mix. It's just the man, we have to make sure that they don't do these certain things where like, make sure you put certain things in your daughter's head when she's young so she can know like when she gets older in age, she's empowered. If you don't empower your children, of course they're gonna go off and start to do things contrary to what the biblical book says do. Like the book says, don't mix seeds in Leviticus 19:19. Well, people, they're doing that. They're mixing seeds. They're putting seeds next to seeds that don't belong to each other, right? So we're basically not following the script that God laid down in the commandments. We're not following the script. We'll say we're God's children. We'll say we're devout Christians, but we're not following those books. We're not keeping the laws. Yeah, we're all created equal, but still you're not supposed to mix certain seeds. Like right now, everybody's suffering from albinism because look, if you mix one time, right? And you notice cause like some of us have siblings who are darker, some of us have siblings who are lighter, and you notice that, we suffer from albinism, right? So like when you have a child with a Caucasian person, and then you keep doing it over and over, the child, like, you can't get back to the original the dark gene. Like, it's like having a child with the Sudanese, right? And you're a Caucasian. That child is never going to be Sudanese for the next 5 generations. So imagine if you keep mixing, what happens. Like, a lot of people think that they can keep mixing and erase white people out of, like, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's impossible to do. One, you don't have a military mind to do something like that, right? And two, you don't have science behind you. You don't have science backing you. If you mix one time and you're Sudanese with the Caucasian, right? Because I'm just mentioning people who have the darkest skin on the planet. If you do that once, you're erasing yourself out of existence for the next 5 generations. Period. You're erasing yourself out of existence for the next 5 generations. So you can't do that. And a lot of people, they don't really care, because like I notice, like, we create a lot of problems for like right now I look at Detroit, right? And I'll be thinking, like, why aren't children outside playing? Like, I'm sure it was kids outside playing in the 60s, like it was like, because like when I look at the videos on Hezekiah Films, I see all these dark skinned children just running around playing outside in the ghetto. I'm talking about during the time when Jesse Jackson was young, right? You don't see that now today. All those kids mixed in with Europeans. They went to the suburbs. Now all those kids have biracial children. Some of them stayed in the cities, didn't have children. Some of them did have children. But I noticed that they don't have that Negro phenotype. They don't have it anymore. They even have a Mongolian phenotype, or they have a mulatto phenotype, or it's some other type that's different than what they brought up from Alabama and Mississippi. It's some other phenotype. Their children don't look like them. You see what I mean? So we are cursed. And it's like the only way we can get out of this is through science. It's not going to be waging war, because we don't have military weapons. We don't have military strategy. We don't have any of these things to rely on. Only way we can get out of this is, like I said, that's the only way. That's the only way. It's through science. And and again, like when I look at this, it's like every generation is going to get more confusing and confusing, because like we don't have communities where everybody is talking. Like we don't have, like, everybody's not having children or having custom relationships where they can like create pregnancies out of astrology or astronomy and stuff like that. Like, we're not doing those things. So like every time someone has a child and they raise it up, right? Like right now, you have children who are in schools, right? And the schools are like underfunded, they're like under populated, and people are trying to figure out like what's going on, like why this is not happening, why that is not happening, and these children are growing up with mental issues. Like I notice, like if I don't talk about a subject that I like to talk about, right? I notice that I start to develop clinical depression. Like if I don't talk about something that I usually like to talk about, right? I notice I get clinical depression. And, again, when we look at our communities, we're not running them. So when people come in and say, oh, we noticed that you said something about clinical depression, then they start to get laws passed. And this can just be typing through something in the church search engine. And you start to get ads on the side of your window, right? Like right here or something like that, right here. You start to get ads and they start to affect your algorithm. And then they start to say, um, you know, here, take this pill, take that pill. And then like, you end up getting hospitalized or something like that. The police is going to be after you until you die. Police is going to be after you. And this is another reason why I personally, like, why I want to get citizenship in Africa. Because I notice if I do citizenship in Africa, right, and I don't have to get a visa and I don't have to do any of that, right, my chances of being, my chances of running away from America just became better. Like getting away from all the para-policemen, like all these rogue organizations. My chances just got better if I have, citizenship in another country, say Africa. Because I look at the way like some of them people live and they have their little small governments, right? Some of them like right now, Speed, he's in a desert state, right? So when he's over there, right, he sees how those people live. They're not bogged down by a police coming to their village telling them, oh, you missed a court date or something like that. Them people don't live like that over there. They live by commonality. That's their government, commonality. They have populist governments over there. So like you doing something different over here and you trying to mimic it, what's happening over there, it's not going to work because white people are not going to allow you to get away with it. That's called white domination. They're not going to allow you to get away with it. So like we are cursed in America. We are cursed in America. This type of stuff right here, like, that's a local problem. I don't really think that's a global issue, so I wouldn't say that Nigerians are cursed. I wouldn't say no race in Africa is cursed. The only way they're going to be cursed if they keep procreating with white people and creating all these different races of people who descend from Africans. The more they do that, the more they are going to be cursed. And I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. One day you're going to look up and you're going to see Nigeria, Benin, all these countries, Ghana, all their people are going to be highly mixed. And all the people who you see now today over there, right, they're going to be few, So to me, I look at it, that's the way I look at it, You have to have strategy when you're dealing with this type of stuff, man. You got to have strategy. Their government can pay China, to innovate or use some type of innovation because the people who are here, they probably don't have that type of science and innovation backed in their education. So, like, you can probably hire, like, a government to come in and do something that'll get rid of this. And, like, Chinese, they're like the closest government that you have that can sort of, but even then I don't think that's the way, because I think like if you're dealing with any type of intervention, right, and it's not the people themselves doing it for themselves, they're cursing themselves because they're setting themselves back. Because the people who are coming in helping you clean up your government, right, they're going to want something in return. It's likely going to be the man wanting the woman. So when you have this mulatto caste that's being birthed, they're going to be in government one day. And when they're in government, they're going to be doing things for the government that they came from, who their father came from. And then their father and them is going to be telling them to do this, do that, do that, do this. And the man ultimately, like, this man, his son is going to suffer. His son right here, he's going to suffer. You know, I'm in that position right now. You know, my father, he was up in my life into a certain point because he couldn't deal with the pressure, you know. And what did my mother do? She ended up having another child by someone of a different race. You know, that's just usually how it is. That's usually how it is. So like the men don't really have governance over the women, and they really don't have um, any intervention in that sense. You know, where they can stop certain things from happening that can ruin the dichotomy of a community. They don't really have it because, like, if you try to intervene and you try to shake things up, what happens is like the police come in and they try to bully people around, and they don't use law; they just use force. Police organizations don't use law; they use force. They don't even listen to Congress. So this is how you can have someone like Garland Gilchrist, who's running for governor, say, "Oh no, I'm not going to run for governor anymore. I'll just try to be Secretary of State." You see what I mean? Like that's what happens. So it's unfortunate, man. I could talk about this on and on. Um, you know, it's it's a lot to this, man. It's a lot to this. I would say that much. It's a lot to this. It's a lot to it. I wouldn't I wouldn't put all my pearls into the future of America. I wouldn't do that. This is why a lot of people are looking at it like, it's time for us to go back to Africa. I think a lot of people are thinking like that. Because one thing about Africa is they allow you to create sub tribes. The only thing about Africa is you have to work. You know, if you stay in America, you are the prey, which means you get preyed upon. So you think you're going to enjoy retirement, you know. Meanwhile, you have a lobbyist, right, and a congressional district representative, a manager, congressional manager, that's trying to put you in jail or trying to put you in a senior citizens home. Um, Africa is different in that manner. Africa is not like that. So, great peace, Yakoki.